Sorry. Hi.
Hello, how are you?
How are you?
Doing
How
real
are
well,
you?
thank you. Thank you so much for doing this. I'm excited to talk to you.
Yes, me too. Thank you. I'm just gonna try to change the background. You're gonna edit, right?
I don't do a whole lot of
Or
editing, so
oh,
up
really?
to
Okay.
you.
Okay. Okay. Well, I
Okay,
don't know if the wall is okay then. Like,
the
let's
wall
just
is
proceed with
fine.
that. Okay. All right. Okay.
So I'm very excited. I got so excited that I got to meet you at the Pittsburgh Book Festival in May, and that
Yes, that was really great.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was so much fun, and I'm so glad that I stopped at your booth because I did not know that you had that many books out.
I know. I only submitted under one pen name because I
Oh,
wasn't
okay.
sure the new book will be ready, right, Ivan? But yeah, that worked out.
Yeah, for
So
sure. I'm so
yeah,
glad because you were telling me about your other book about the woman in Moscow, which looks really good. Oh, I'm sorry, a Countess in Moscow, which also looks really good. But I'm excited that I got the Ivan and the Thrice Nine Tales. I understand you're going to have a second book too, Thrice Nine Lands.
yeah. So it's when I first came up with the idea, it was just going to be a standalone, and then as I was writing it, I realized that there was a bit more to tell. So the first part, I don't know how far you got, but it
I'm
takes
like a
part.
chapter 11.
Okay, so that's in Virginia, right? So
Yeah,
so the magical creatures, well, Ivan, the fairy tale guy, comes to modern day Virginia, and then there's a story. He meets different characters and kind of like comes into his own. So then book two is he goes back to Zoria, the magical land where he comes from. So the two books are in different worlds.
yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Magical
So
realism.
yes.
Very, very interesting. I saw that you also write psychological thrillers besides historical romance. You're like all over the genres. That's really
I'm all
interesting.
over the place. This is what they tell you not to do as an indie
Well, I
author.
mean, if it
And
works, I
they're
don't
like,
think it really
I don't
matters.
know. I mean, you're supposed to kind of pick a genre and then,
Oh,
get good at it, then understand what the reader wants, because I guess readers well, apparently are by genre, and like some people are only fantasy, some people are only historical fiction. So then,
okay.
yeah, and then I have not managed to do that.
I don't think it really matters. I think people like your
Yeah,
books anyhow. I've seen a lot of really positive reviews. So,
thank
and
you.
I've been really enjoying reading the book, and Ivan's really interesting. So, I saw that this book is kind of based on Prince Ivan of Stravinsky's ballet, The Firebird. Is that true? Yeah.
Well, so the Firebird, okay, so in Russian fairy tales, we have this guy, right? Ivan. He's kind of like a traditional folktale hero, right? So
Okay.
I don't want to say he's the Cinderella of the Russian stories, because we have like the Cinderella equivalent as well, but
Yeah.
he's the youngest son. So he has two older brothers. And in different fairy tales, he's either the czar's son or just a regular guy's son, right?
Okay.
But he's always kind of like the village idiot, right? He's like the underestimated guy. He's the guy who's like too honest, too naive, right? Kind of like, and because he's the youngest in traditional Russian family, it's primogeniture, so he would get nothing, right? The older son gets married, gets the house, inherits the
Right.
land. The middle son, gets whatever, something else. So there's nothing left for Ivan. As the youngest son, he's kind of like the loser.
Yeah.
But he's the one who gets the girl. He's the one who is, because he's honest and kind-hearted and, goes by the book, and he wins the hearts of the audience and the people. And in the end, he triumphs to the disdain of the older brothers. So that's kind of like the theme in a lot of Russian fairy tales,
Okay.
right? So there are even movie adaptations in like recently in modern day Russia. So everybody knows Ivan, and
Okay.
then the Firebird is the this magical creature in Russian fairy tales, and it's the grand like wish making bird. So you get the Firebird's feather, and the feather allows you to make a wish, and then you're set. So whatever wish, anyway. So then there are fairy tales where Ivan hunts for the Firebird,
Right.
and so then in this story, I kind of combined the two Russian traditional fairy tales.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting. I'm really, really
Yes.
enjoying it. I'm actually staying up too late reading it, so uh,
I mean,
probably
I
not.
like to hear that. I don't like that you're staying up late, but
No,
I
I
like that
mean it's hard
it's
once
getting
you
your.
get into a groove with a book though to put it down. I'm like, well, I just want to
Oh.
read one more chapter. And then I'm like, oh no, it's late. But on the weekends it's fine. So do you prefer writing one genre over another, or you don't mind? You just do
I
what
kind of
you're
go.
what you
The,
like?
I I don't know. It's. I guess I go with the idea and the character. So the thriller that you mentioned, I sort of. So I wrote two trilogies in this
Hmm.
one magical realism genre, but one was sort of like Zoya was the first book, the set of books that I wrote, and then Lilu was the next one, which was
Okay.
more paranormal women's fiction, where you've got so it's kind of like a witchy. So she's a witch, a hereditary witch in this trilogy, right? The main character, and she finds out later in life, and it's kind of like a book for for women of a certain age, right? So like I guess like women in their 40s. So she's in her 40s when she when most of the events of the book take place, and her marriage collapses, and then she learns that she's supposed to be a witch, and she's like, what do I do with it? And the cool part is that before discovering all of that, the woman is an accountant. So she's like
That's a big
so
flex.
yeah, and she's trying to be like a successful normal accountant, and this is in the 90s, so she's like very
Right.
like breaking the glass ceiling, all of those things.
Yeah, for sure.
And then her grandma is like, well, this is what
That's really
this is,
intriguing, though.
yeah.
And then I read that
So
you grew up after you left Russia. You lived out around Pittsburgh, and you went to high school around the
yes,
Pittsburgh area.
yes,
And what in
exactly.
one of your
So
book series is it Shady Side Chronicles or something like
that's
that?
the one. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the one that's set in Pittsburgh. And so she grows up in Shadyside, this lady in the 70s and 80s. And then, then this all this stuff happens in the 90s. So it's set in Shadyside and Squirrel Hill.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
wild.
So, yeah. And then, so I'm like, sorry,
That's okay. I'm
so
like all over the map.
the thriller happened because it's based on a real story. Well, the family, the situation described in the book is a real story,
Wow.
not the the part where it gets to be a thriller, but the setup is a real family that I knew, and I sort of wanted to write about them. And of course, I changed everything, like the names and the location. But I guess it had to be a thriller. So,
That's cool. I'm gonna have to read that one too then. I got a
yeah,
lot of
and
reading to
that's
do.
yeah.
Okay, so what do you, I know that obviously you've drawn your inspiration for Ivan from, Russian fairy tales and the stories about him. But, where else do you draw inspiration from? Just everyday events, things that happen to you, people you know. Where do you find it?
Um, it's hard to say, but I kind of have like a list. So Ivan happened because I was reading. Well, I heard about one of the stories, books, like fantasy books written based on Russian folk tales. And then I started reading it, and I was like, well, like some stuff I found to be inaccurate. And then I was like, I want to bring Russian fairy tales to the American readers, and that's how Ivan happened. And then I was thinking about it, and I was like, I like writing about male characters, so I like to mix it up, right? So I have a few books with women characters, female characters, but then I really was, I think Ivan is such a fascinating character because he's like, I mean, in general, writing about like what a pure man or like a good man is supposed to be like is interesting to me. So yeah, and then especially in this day and age, like I
Well,
think
he was
masculinity is
very
being
sheltered,
questioned.
so
Yeah, yeah. So and then he comes from this world where he's completely underestimated, and he comes and like his qualities where he's like, well, he's kind of shy, but then people are like, oh, that's amazing. You're shy. You're kind. You're considerate, right? So,
well, I also think nobody really gave him
mhm.
a chance, and where
Yeah,
his family and where he lived before
yeah,
he Virginia.
Right.
And, I think that he was always trying to kind of like fade into the background and not cause,
Mhm.
ripples or waves. So, underestimating himself in the process, So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So that was, yeah. So it's hard to say where the ideas come from. Yeah, and then the Countess under the pen name, that was actually the first book I wrote, but I wrote it like 5, 6 years ago, and then it was unpublished. And then I rewrote it last year and then published it. So I rewrote it, and it was like kind of a sad story, but then I made it into like more of a romance where she still goes through all the troubles, but then the ending is like a happier ending.
Oh, nice. Like uplifting.
So, yeah,
Um, I believe I looked at it says that you self-published. That's amazing. You have like a lot of books out. You must do a lot of writing.
I do. Yes, I write
Yeah.
a lot. Yeah,
How do you
yeah.
fit it into your life? Do you write full time?
No, 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 no. I have a full-time job, and it's tough. I write when I can, and I think I've gotten much faster at
Yeah.
writing. But I write whenever I can. So I
Yeah.
try to, yeah. The part that writing is like it's doable. The part where it requires a lot of time and it's really draining is the marketing, right?
Oh,
So
I'm
that's the part where
sure.
it's like you have to, like, you can't stop, right? So like
Yeah.
if you're not writing, you got to be marketing. And then there are all these pieces to it. So that's where but then it's also really fun.
It's very
So yeah,
fascinating.
yeah.
Very. Um, did you always want to be a writer?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I didn't think it was going to be possible, right? Because with all the, I mean, I know that I remember in college, I wrote for the school, like there was like arts and entertainment magazine. Then I did an
Mhm.
internship at Philadelphia magazine. I was
Oh,
thinking
nice.
to like go into journalism, like after
Yeah.
college. Fortunately, it didn't work out. I think because I think if I were a journalist, I think it would have been hard to do fiction. I think it's hard to make that
Probably.
switch.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was always like writing something. I
Yeah.
had like an active live journal at one point.
Same.
You know,
Same.
yeah,
Yeah.
where I was just
I've
like,
done a lot of
yeah,
really,
yeah,
I haven't written a book like you, but I've definitely
mhm,
wrote some articles, interviewed tons of bands my whole life. And
mhm,
then yeah, so yeah, I can totally relate to the
yeah,
trying to write around like
yeah,
having a life thing too. So
yeah, yeah.
but I
So
mean,
yeah,
all the writers I really like and admire are all a lot like what you're saying, where they just like fit it in and they do it when
mhm,
they can because there's no set like time where someone's like giving them a big fat advance. Some people get an advance, but
mhm,
not in the beginning, to
yeah.
actually pursue something that they really love. And I think it's hard to make a living at something like
It's
creative
very hard. It's
writing.
very
Yeah.
hard. There was so one of my friends, she quit her job to do full-time writing, but she just published like a blog, and I can send you the link. She just published like a breakdown of how much she makes, and it's
Yeah.
not, you can't live on that amount, and she
Aw.
acknowledges that. So it's really hard as a self-published author to
Yeah.
make it, but there are people who do. But I think the rewarding part of it is that it's changing, right? The world is changing, and and you don't have to wait. So that's the awesome part, like, right? So with Ivan, if it were part of a publishing deal, I'd have to wait several years. The cover would probably not be this cover that like I chose, and I worked with a
Right.
designer to have that on, that particular design.
It's a
Um,
beautiful cover.
so it's actually one of the paintings of this Russian painter, also
Oh
Ivan
yeah, I think I
Bilibin.
saw that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
And it's
beautiful.
adapted, right? Yeah. And yeah. So, so the process, right, where it takes in the formal traditional publishing, it takes several years. Here, you can do it as fast as several months. And I know that some indie authors, they publish like, like they rapid release books. I mean, there are people who,
Wow.
yeah, and are looking for ways to like write faster. I mean, I'm not at that point, but
Yeah.
there are definitely people who are very successful who have all these tricks that they
Yeah.
apply.
I think you have to do what works for you too. So,
Yeah.
so Tell me about being at book fairs, meeting your fans, and doing readings and whatnot. Because you just released this book, just released formally on the 6th this month, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you did like an
Yeah.
in-store?
I did an in-store release, so it was really cool. Well, so the Pittsburgh was kind of a pre-release, so I ended up having books ready and printed beforehand, before the 6th, and I came to Pittsburgh with the
You
books,
sold
and
out.
I sold out. I know. Yeah, I
Yeah.
took a few. I was like, okay, let's see if this works. It was like I think like 10 or 12 copies, and then they were gone really fast. And I
Yeah.
think I think it's because it's fantasy romance, and so then there's the romance element with the yoga instructor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think people want that. They want
Sure.
love and like those stories.
Escape.
Escape, yeah, and also it's yeah. And so I had an event at Friends to Lovers bookstore. So we have this romance bookstore in Alexandria. It's
Oh,
near where I
cool.
live. Yeah, and they're really it's a very nice place. And so then I had an in-store event on Saturday for the launch.
How was that?
It was great. It was
Yeah.
great.
Did you get to meet a
Yeah.
lot of really different people, interesting people that love your work?
So I've been at that store like, a few times, and it's fantastic because you have people driving just to go shopping at that bookstore. It's an impressive place,
Oh,
really.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, like an independent
Yeah.
bookstore.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And you
Yeah.
have
They
people
usually have
driving like
cooler
several
stuff.
hours, like
Oh,
they
yeah.
drive like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then, the store has different types of romance. It's historical, contemporary, fantasy. I mean, it's
It sounds
anything.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love bookstores.
So,
That's dangerous territory in there. It's
yeah.
I come out with, yeah, I could spend a lot of money. I was having a hard time at that Pittsburgh Book Festival.
Oh, I know. I can
Holy,
imagine.
I was like, I'm not going to buy any books. And I'm like, so yeah. But I bought your book and I bought, I think, like
Thank
one
you.
other book. But yeah, and then I would
Okay.
like drag
Okay.
myself out of there because I was like, I'm going to spend all my money. But it's everybody has such interesting books there, and everybody's, wants to talk to people and connect. And I like to talk to people. So
Yeah.
I tend to buy them. But I'm your audience for sure. But yeah, so what I want to oh, about how long does it take you to write a book? Do you have like a set time or do you
Um,
just
well, I think it takes like a few months. So, probably, so from start to finish, I would say probably 6 to 9 months is how long
that's
I
pretty
take.
fast.
Well, it's considered slow by the indie author, the rapid
Oh, by
release
indie authors?
people.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's not super fast, but
I
I
don't
would say
think
it could have
that's
been
very
faster.
slow.
But
Okay.
the editing, and then
Sure.
I try to now build in this period. So for Ivan, it took more because I had two beta readers who kind of read the concept and just got back to me on whether it's interesting or not, right? So I had one
Oh, how
Russian
cool.
American reader who knows the fairy tales, and
Yeah.
she was very skeptical beforehand, and she's like, "Oh, it's better than I thought," right? So,
Well,
so
that's
and then I
good.
yeah, so I had those two beta readers, and then I had the month-long arc, right, advanced reader copy period,
Okay.
where I send it to just people connections. I mean, I have a few that I've worked with before, TikTok followers and then Instagram followers, and then I sent them the
Interesting.
advanced book, and then they read, and then they do reviews. So then by the time the book releases, it already has a bunch of reviews on Goodreads. So it kind of builds this social capital for the book so that you're not just looking at a blank slate, right? You don't know what to do with it. So people value reviews quite a bit.
Right,
Uh,
right, for sure.
so that month, between the release dates, so I have to have the book ready. I had it ready by end of April, but I didn't release it until this Saturday.
Yeah.
So that's something else that you kind of have to consider as well.
Yeah. Well, I know that like just the one of the authors I really like a lot, Diana
Mhm.
Gabaldon, she takes like a few years between her books. Like
Mhm.
I think she said somewhere between 5 and 6 or
Okay, really?
yeah. So I mean, and she writes like these tomes and
Okay,
really
okay,
yeah. But I mean, she also
yeah,
she's been doing that a really long time too. And
yeah.
has like the whole like publishing deal and all that. yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
so when you said like only a few months, I was like, really? Because I thought it took people years. But I guess it
Well,
depends on
I
what
think
genre you're writing.
right, and it might be the traditional publishing as well,
Oh yeah,
right?
I think that.
So yeah, yeah, it might be that they all the rounds of editing. So I used to work with a really wonderful editor, and she would always tell me like, look, it's just you and me in the publishing houses. There are like several rounds of just copy editing.
Oh,
So,
really? I
right?
did not realize
Yeah,
there were that many rounds.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So
Wow.
it's like so all of that takes time, I guess, and
Yeah.
yeah.
So, when you're not writing,
Mhm.
what do you read? Do you like to read still, or are you like,
Oh yeah, no,
I'm
no, no.
always
I
writing, I don't have
absolutely
time for that?
no. I read. So I read a lot of Russian classics. So
Yeah.
I yeah. So that's just. So I sometimes reread them. I read new ones, but I do that. And I also I read some, some kind of like books that are hot in the moment or whatever. But I also I read Robert Galbraith, so J.K. Rowling's pen name, right, for
Okay.
the detectives, the Strike series.
Oh
I
yeah.
just yeah, I love her like his whatever style, and I just when I kind of want to like tune out, and I've read all of them.
Oh wow.
So I think it's up to book 8, and these are huge books, right? So now I will just like start in the middle and just read whatever part because I just love the language and the characters, and also for kind of like building skills as an author. She's an amazing example of like how everything is done, and
Oh,
how like the chapters are balanced and the characters, like how she builds the character
yeah.
development. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you
It's
sound like
amazing.
super, super organized and that you really know what you're doing. And I mean, when I write, it's just, I just kind of write what I know. I've read and different people have said that, authors usually write about what they know. Do you think that
Yeah,
that's true to an
it is
extent?
true. Yes, 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 absolutely. It's always easier, but it doesn't have to be, when I'm writing about like a witch,
Right. Obviously, yeah.
right? But the emotions, right? So the witch could be experiencing emotions that I know or I could relate to, right? Or like certain situations. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like the exact setup,
Right.
right? But it's like the feelings. So I
So,
think that's what it is, or the scenes where the settings are, right?
mhm.
You kind of like you can build similar places based on familiar where places where you've been.
Yeah,
So
I would, yeah, obviously. I
mhm,
mean, because since
yeah.
you've lived near Virginia or in Virginia and the whole
Mhm,
Pittsburgh connection, which is so interesting to me, but obviously because this is where I live. But
mhm,
what else did I want to know? So since you read and you write and you have all these things going on, do you have other hobbies? Is there anything else you do, like
um,
travel or try to get
I
some
mean,
sleep?
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I definitely. Well, writing takes up all my time, right? All
Yeah,
my free time. So I mean, I
that is
would.
kind of your hobby slash
It's
job.
my hobby. It's my hobby. Yeah, it is. I mean, yeah. So if I'm not writing, I'm thinking about writing, or I'm working in my my actual job.
Right, right. Or
So,
doing things with your family or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So if somebody wanted to write, what advice would you give them? Someone who wants to be a writer and wants to be published, what
Mhm.
would you say?
I mean, now is the time. It's amazing because there are all these tools, and you can do it. So one thing that I was talking to one of my colleagues, and he shared the story where he wrote something and then showed it to somebody 5 years ago, and the person completely tore it apart.
Oh,
And then he gave me the same piece to read, and I thought it was really good and had a lot of potential. And don't listen to bad feedback. So if
right.
somebody does that to you, don't listen to that because you never know, right? So so write and don't stop. So it's like a muscle. So it's like working out in the gym, right? You're not just gonna go once, work out, and then you're like, hey, I'm done. Now I can be an athlete. You gotta do it consistently, and
Mhm.
you gotta keep at it. So my recommendation is to start somewhere. what helps is just get it on paper or whatever, your screen, right? So don't like, so people are like, but I don't know, it's not going to be great. It doesn't matter. Just get it out.
Right.
Just get it out.
Right.
And then you can kind of like, yeah. I'm not a plotter. There are people who are, right? But um, even without being a plotter, you can get a book written, right? And there are two types of authors now, right? They're called like plotters and then pantsers, where like you're hanging by the seat of your pants. Like you're like writing and you're like, oh, I'm not sure what's gonna happen. You're like, like so
So
you can do,
okay.
yeah.
So do you do an outline then, or do you just like
No,
okay.
I kind of have an ending where I'm
Okay.
working towards, right? So I know
Oh,
how
you know
things
the
will end.
ending before you do the whole story?
Pretty much,
Yeah,
pretty
no
much.
way.
Well,
That's
but
pretty
I
wild.
didn't with the thriller. With the thriller, I had different, I had two different endings, right?
Yeah,
So,
okay.
but I kind of know where things are going, but I don't know how. So the journey, right?
Okay.
The journey and the different, like the different ways things are
Interesting.
gonna work. And then sometimes like characters pop up, right? So like new things happen while I'm writing it. So in Ivan, there is a character. I don't know if she's there, but once you come across her, you're like, oh, that's who she meant. So this character showed up like I was writing, and then she just showed up in the middle of the book. Um, oh my god, sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can still see
Yeah,
you.
sorry, I just had a yeah.
You're
So
okay.
she kind of just showed up in the middle of the book, and I was like, all right, I have to work her in.
Yeah,
So
that's
like,
wild.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Sounds
so
it's
so
very
so
intriguing.
well, you'll so the advice is don't give up, and then get a support group. So it's good to
Oh
be
yeah.
in a writing club. Like that really
Oh, like
helped
a
me in the
group,
beginning.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, where you're like not sure how your writing is or how people perceive it, then it
Hmm.
helps to be part of like an author. You know, I think there are clubs in Pittsburgh as well. I
Yeah,
heard
probably.
there was one. Yeah. But then eventually you'll just have to write by yourself. So
Oh
that's
yeah.
so
Yeah, I think to some extent, writing is pretty solitary,
yeah,
Sure, especially,
yeah.
so I get like weirdly inspired, like sometimes in the middle of the night or
Mhm.
something. So I like have a little like
Uh-huh.
journal and pen like right there kind of thing.
That's
So
great. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
it's okay when you don't have like an adult life and you have to like get up and do things, but sometimes,
Well, yeah. Or like when you
writing
wake
is
up
like
in
an
the
ebb and
morning,
flow
just
anyhow. So
yeah. Yeah.
do
Yeah.
you
But it's
find
definitely.
that your interactions like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, whatever,
Mhm.
like do you get like just like really nice positive people love your stuff? Do you ever get any weirdos? Because there's a lot of weird stuff goes on the
Um,
internet.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I try not to.
Engage.
So no. I mean
I'm just
the
kidding. I'm kidding.
no. It's TikTok and TikTok took me a while to figure out, right? And even now but I wouldn't say that I go there and I am like scrolling and looking things up. I mostly go just to like post and engage with the readers, maybe
Right.
like engage a little bit, and then I'm out of there because it's draining, right?
Oh yeah.
um what the stuff that bugs me and it's not supposed to because you're not supposed to, so it just takes a while to get used to this, is that the reviews are for the readers, right? So the bad reviews that people post on Goodreads or Amazon are for other readers. It's not for the author.
Right.
But it's so hard to take it personally. And then
Yeah,
like
sure.
the first time I got my 1 star review, I was like, like I was like so,
You're like, oh my
this is
gosh.
like I was so upset.
Aw. Well, yeah,
But
because you
now,
put a lot into your writing, not
yeah,
only your
yeah,
time and energy, but yourself and you're enthusiastic about it. And then somebody like
yeah,
cans
yeah.
it,
Mhm.
you're like, what's wrong
Yeah.
with you? Why don't you love it?
Yeah, exactly. But then you learn. And you also learn that like you can't please everyone. So like one
Oh,
person
that's
gave me
true.
1 star on, and then I will have like mental arguments with this person. And I was like, but I want to say, but then you can't, right? Because like you're not supposed to get back to them, right? Because they are
Yeah.
like, so it's for other readers and let them just hash it out. Yeah. So one person was like, the Countess book, they were like, this is a romance. I thought it was historical fictions. It's 1 star. It's disgusting. I like don't look at this, guys.
Doesn't
Like
it say
this is
it's historical romance?
Well, but the person, and then
They obviously
but
misunderstood.
well, no, they were upset that it's a, that there was romance in the book. And then
Oh,
you're like, well, why not have a like it
yeah.
shouldn't take away from the fact that it is a historical fiction book with accurate historical detail. But
Right.
anyway, so anyway, you can't please everyone,
No.
and but so that's the stuff that bugs me,
Yeah.
that
I mean, that
but
would be that would be hard to get used to, I'm sure. Um,
yeah.
what else did I want to know? So, hmm, I had like all these questions. I just went out of my head. Oh, so when you're writing, like, is there ever a time, like when you started to write, that you were like, what would sell? Should I write what would sell? Or were you just like,
Hmm.
I'm going to write what I
Yeah.
want to write and
Yeah.
hope that it sells? I mean,
Well,
how do you get around that?
I started, where I'm like, I'm just gonna write for myself, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then it what so my first trilogy, the YA trilogy, right? That was a very good learning experience because I was like, I'm just gonna write it. And then the cover, I picked the beautiful cover. I thought the cover that I liked would be great. And then it was totally wrong. Like people couldn't place the cover. It wasn't like the right cover for the genre. And then it
Oh,
wasn't, and it was like not enough sci-fi to be sci-fi, not enough fantasy to be fantasy, too historical to be, but not too historical to be pure fantasy, but like anyway. So it was kind of like all over the place and really hard to market. And so that was my learning experience. And then I started targeting better and better. It I mean, we're also told that series are a good thing, but then, my thriller, I was like, it was just a one like book thriller, right? There wasn't going to be part two. So
right.
that's another thing where it's like, okay, so writing based on genre. And then now I've started trying to fit my stories into the genre that is doing well. So Ivan,
Okay.
cozy fantasy, right? It's like people like fantasy where there aren't necessarily dragons and swords, where it's like cute and low stakes. So that's Ivan. So cozy with some romance. So those are popular, and hopefully it'll do well because those are two fantasy subgenres where things are looking good. And then historical fiction apparently is having a moment. So
I love
so
historical fiction.
yeah, yeah. So that's a good, that's another. So I'm trying to now, make sure that I'm not, and if I ever write, another sci-fi or whatever fantasy, I'm gonna make sure that it's like definitely more appealing to one set of the readers because,
Right.
people definitely look for things like that.
Hmm. I think also, I mean, like you said, it was when you were starting out. So, I mean, everything is a learning experience. And as you
Yeah.
write, like you said, it's like a muscle. I think that you probably just get
Mhm.
better as you do it.
Yeah.
At least that's the goal,
Hopefully,
right?
hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's, you
Mhm.
probably have. So I've read a bunch of reviews and everybody seems to be really like what you're doing. So when you do like
Thank
something
you.
like
Mhm.
historical romance, you
Mhm.
know, what do you do to get to your, I mean, I know you know some of it because you're from
Mhm.
Russia and you grew up with some of that history, but, do you do your own research? Do you
Mhm.
outline that? How do you do that?
I do my own research, yeah. So, but it was fun because it's set in Moscow and I know Moscow. And then I also I in my other so I've been writing about the writing in my TikToks. I've been publishing a little bit about the research that I did, but
Okay.
I learned about that time in Moscow's history, and then I also read a bunch of authors who wrote about that time period, um, which was amazing, right? So I got to kind of immerse myself in that world like 100 plus years ago. And then their history of places. So in that book, there is also the Moscow Art Theater is featured. So that's the Stanislavski, right? The method acting inventor. So his theater in Moscow is in that book because the heroine, she's in love with an actor from that theater.
Right. You were
And
telling me
so
about that at the book thing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So then there's that love story, but then the theater had the most fascinating history because it got founded before the revolution, right? And then during the revolution, they lost all their money, they lost their
Um,
audience, and half the troupe went on tour almost never to return. So they were gone for 3 years. So the Stanislavski basically was like with half of his people trying to put plays and work with the Soviet regime in like 1919, 1920. And then his troupe was like wandering around, Europe when the Russian Civil War was going on. So that, like, a part of that is in the book. So as well that, but it was really interesting trying to piece together that history and
Do you
write about
find,
that.
when you're learning about the history, or even if you're reading somebody else's book and has a lot of history in it, that you want to go those places?
Um,
Or are you like, no, I don't need to do that. I already, because I
you
find like
know,
I want to go
yeah.
places.
Okay, interesting. You
Yeah.
know, I don't know. So far, it hasn't happened.
Okay. I just
Well, I
wondered.
don't know. I don't know. It hasn't happened because sometimes like you read about the events of the past and where you're like, I don't want to be there.
Well, no, I mean, I'm sure if it's like, something
Yeah.
upsetting or
Hmm.
something
Hmm.
traumatic, of course. But
Yeah.
I found that like after
Uh-huh.
reading a book series I really love, that I've have
Hmm.
more of a interest in history, since I
Uh-huh.
haven't been in college for a jillion years. But
Mhm.
and I've gone to like different battlefields and
Okay.
different museums and things
Yeah.
with my husband Eric and my friends, and
Hmm.
we've done a lot of like, oh, we need to go here and see this kind of thing. So
Oh, that's cool.
yeah,
Okay.
so it's actually been
Okay.
kind of like, I guess, educational for me also,
Uh-huh.
because it's not only I'm not just obsessed with books or a show, I'm like actually learning something
Yeah. Yeah.
new. So, but yeah, but
Okay.
I find that like really fascinating now, and that's why I like,
Mm.
it doesn't have to be romance, but I do like
Yeah.
historical fiction.
Yeah.
Sometimes romance, it depends on what it is, whether I like it or not.
Mhm.
I don't necessarily need like a massive bodice ripper, that like a Harlequin romance. I used
Yeah.
to read those when I was younger, but
Hmm.
I need a little bit of reality. I don't want all reality because then that takes all the fun out.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like, have to. I like the story. I love the story. I love, people's emotions and their relationships. That's what, like, if it's
Yeah.
historical and it has these really interesting relationships, that's really what attracts me to it. Because just pure history, I could just read nonfiction, so
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it can be,
I
which
don't
is
like
good, but it
nonfiction
could
that
be dry.
much.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Nonfiction, I don't know. I'm not a,
I
yeah.
don't really read that much nonfiction
Yeah.
unless I like, if there's like some artist or musician or singer that I love, that I'll read their book.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
mostly I just want it to be like, fantasy or non-reality, because sometimes reality is not so great and books are
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah. They're a good
you can
escape.
escape. Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. See, so yeah, so you have this other second book coming out in your Ivan
Hmm.
series. Is
Hmm.
Did I read that that's coming out in September?
Yes. Yes. So I'm just finishing it this month and then it'll go for editing and
Yeah, I
fingers
can't wait.
crossed it's almost done.
Is it Gray
So yeah.
Wolf?
Yeah. It's Ivan and
Gray
the
Wolf?
Grey Wolf.
Okay.
Hmm. Yeah.
I was taking little notes today. I was
So,
like looking at your stuff. I'm like, oh, I didn't forgot about that book. Yeah. So it's like
yeah.
I mean, it's
Hmm.
very fascinating that you write in so many different genres, because like you said, usually people kind of choose one and just kind of stay
Hmm.
with it. So it's like, it's very cool that you do all this different stuff. So now I'm gonna like have a lot of stuff to read. So
Thank you.
oh yeah, it's really exciting
Yeah.
and so wonderful to meet you. You were so gracious, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank
I'm
you.
very excited, and
Thank
yeah, I'll
you.
have to let you know when I finish my first Ivan book.
Yeah, let me know, and then reviews really matter
Okay,
to indie
yeah,
authors. So
yeah.
please
It might take me a
encourage.
few weeks, but I will. Yeah, I'll
It's
definitely
okay.
get with
It's
you.
okay. Review it, and then encourage others to if
Yeah, for
to review.
sure.
Yeah.
For
So
sure,
it's
for
like,
sure.
yeah, it's
Thank
kind of
you
like
so much,
yeah.
Alexandra. Oh,
Thank
you
you,
go by Alex or Alexandra?
Alexandra. It's
Alexandra.
okay.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. It's really
Thank you for having me.
fascinating to talk to you. Oh, absolutely. So I hope you have a wonderful night, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.